Welcome! I know it seems unbelievable, but Christmas is almost here. Why is that 32 degrees in the shadows then? Well, because we are approximately 10,000 kilometers away from Europe in Southeastern Asia. Yes, this is Thailand with its unmatched smile, beautiful flowers, culture and tropical climate, whereas the fish grow enormous. We accompany Ardy Veltkamp and Olivier Portrat to this beautiful country for great fishing. Join us! We are in southern Thailand between Malaysia and Burma. The average temperature on this wonderful tropical landscape is around 30 degrees. The sun sets around 7 p.m. and rises around 6 a.m. People are fantastic, everybody's smiling, everybody's full of love, but what is most wonderful, it seems as if even the animal would like us. They live so peacefully, full of love, you can really approach them just like in a zoo.
It was a oil palm plantation with a valley running through the middle, a small stream, and at the bottom end was a swamp. I took 6 months to find the location to build this place. Went around this area. I love this area with the lime casts and the scenery. I spent 6 months looking at different locations, soil samples, taking water samples, narrowed it down to 10 locations I'd be interested in buying. This was my second choice. We dug the lake out. There was a swamp at one side, as I said. We removed the swamp. We built that up with spoil from the lake that we dug. We treat the bottom of the lake with lime to kill the nitrates. We wash it out. And we put 150 tons of elephant in this 9 acres to get all the pond life going, established. At the same time, we bought shrimps up from Bangkok, but need a lot of calcium for their shell to grow. We put like 150 kilos of very small shrimp in here to get the life going. We put 3 tons of bloodworm that we removed from the swamp into the lake also. So I wanted like an ecosystem going before the fish arrived.
Stuart Gillham saw my website, and he saw I traveled a little bit for carp fishing many places, many countries, and he said you missed something. And I have not so many experience fishing abroad and for tropical exotic species, but I always wanted to do that one time in my life, and that's why he invited me. And I'm glad to be here now with Olivier Pache, who's for me the best photographer in the world, and a camera crew, so that we can make a movie here and show it to the people at home.
Well, I was not too surprised in the sense that I've been to Thailand in the year 2000 several times already, to places like this, especially Bung Samlang, which was the biggest place of this type of fishery in Thailand at that moment. And I found it magic to find so many huge fish just in one water. And what Stuart has done here is only the same project, but in much better. The fish living here are essentially fish that support the tropical climate. You can't have trout or salmon in here. The fish that live here all come from areas close to the equator, either from South America, Africa, or from Asia.
don't know. Very heavy rod. Oh, it's a nice one, right, Chris? Nice. It's a good fish. It's so good. No, please, don't lose it. Yes, got it. We got it. Oh, man, I'm so glad. Yes. More upright. Right, of course. Exactly. Great.
Half my life studying fish, playing around with fish in aquariums. This is a giant aquarium. Thailand's a fantastic place where there's no control over fish coming in, so if the aquarium trade carries many species from around the world. With no movement orders, it's an easy place to set up a fishery like this. The main fish I'd love to get hold of would be a tigress barbel. These are, like Turkey, Iraq, Iran area. Not an easy place to find fish from. The Amazon species come into Thailand for the aquarium trade and are reasonably easy to source. We had a lot of problems with Arapaima till we got the handling of them right. The other species, pretty easy, just occasionally you get something wrong and you pay the price. Fish diseases are just, like, if you look at early stages, every time you've got to check, my water quality is checked twice daily. Every fish is inspected by my guides. If they see something they don't understand, they call me. If you catch any disease, any parasite early, it's a lot easier to treat than if you catch it too late. Twice a day we check, oxygen levels, nitrate levels, phosphate levels. If we notice any changes, anything changing out of the ordinary to what this water runs at, then we'll check more regularly and we can react to the change that's going on. I keep saying I'm going to retire, I'm going to take a back seat. I've never been a guy who can sit down and take a back seat. Once I finish making this lake bigger, I'm going to get bored and we don't know what's going to happen next.
Now I know roughly what people, when they go to the Amazons or other countries, it's totally different than Europe, the fights. The fish are much stronger. And the strange thing, what I think, is it's so hot here. It's 40 degrees almost. The water temperature is very hot. And the fish have so much oxygen. They keep on going and going. The fights are unbelievable. And I'm fishing with new century rods and they're 6 or 8 pounds and they bend over and it takes, for the big Mekong catfish, it takes more than an hour to get them in. It's incredible. I never felt this in my life. Carp fishing is nothing if you compare it to this kind of fishing. I had some good carps in my life. For carp it was more than 70 pounds. So 73 or something. The biggest catfish was 190 pounds. So I caught some big fish at the Ebro in Spain, some catfish, but if you compare it to a Mekong catfish, it's totally different.
The rigs we use on this lake resemble a lot, if not they're identical to what usually the carp anglers in Europe and everywhere use. They're bulge rigs, so there's a fixed lead, and once the fish has inhaled the bait with the hook, he swims off, and the inertia of the lead will make that the hook point takes grip in the mouth, and then the fish feels the resistance of the weight, will run off and hopefully hook himself a little bit better. And at that moment, our bite indicators that there's a run. We take the rod, and usually the fish is more or less hanging, just tighten some of the line, you don't have to strike very hard, and the hook will penetrate. It's a so-called bulge rig, a self-hooking rig. We put a bead on the line in order not to tangle a piece of tubing, hollow plastic. We pass our shock leader through there. So the end will come out. Here we have it. Then we push a lead over the shock lead end, and we tie the hook length via the swivel to the shock lead made of nylon. Our main line is made of braided line. In this case, we lost some fish in the past days because of the nylon. The nylon suffers a lot with the heat and the ultraviolet radiation. Now I weten the knot somewhat so that when I tighten it, it doesn't get too hot and does not damage the nylon. So now it's almost finished. We see here the hook length, the swivel, the lead, the tubing in order to prevent tangling when casting, a bead, and I put some power gum in order to prevent the tubing to slide upwards the line. Power gum works as stopper. It's a classic stop knot. Put a loop against it, pass 3 or 4 times through it, tighten it. Now it's very tight, and we cut off the loose ends. And push it down to the tubing. And our rig is finished. And we fish just with a single hook. It's made to present that bait fish. So there's not the classical braided line going off the hook in order to put the boilie or a pellet. It's just the single hook that will hold the bait fish, hopefully. The bait fish we use is a small sardine. It's a sea fish. They're very smelly. The problem is they're very soft, so I must cast very gently in order not to lose them when casting already. Now we have our bait fish, hang just on the single hook, and we cast out. And we leave it very close to the bank because the Arapaimas don't like the open water. They will be traveling along the margins. Most fishermen like always to fish the opposite bank, but there's no reason that the fish shall always be on the other side of the water. So I have no problem fishing just 3 or 4 meters from my rod board. The swinger is on, and then let's switch the bait runner on. Perfect. This leader is almost the same, with the exception that we have some braid continuing after the hook, like the classic boilie rig. Instead of a boilie, we'll put a pellet on there. The pellets have a hole. With the help of the needle here, and be able, on this braided line, to pass the loop here over the last pellet, so they cannot slip back again. And we tighten everything with a small stop knot behind, and This is the rig, the baited rig. The good thing is with the pellets here, as the fish get fed a lot by the fishermen, and they pre-feed with the pellets, also the Arapaima take pellets. But this is a very universal bait for here. You can catch Arapaima on it, you can catch the Mekong Catfish on it, and many other species living here, including even occasionally some Siamese Carp. So I give it a try today with these baits. In my pocket, I always have a whistle, because the fish here are very big, and once you're in business with one of these fish, it's important to whistle, because one of Stuart's assistants will come to take out the other rods, so the rods don't get tangled. Now I check the drags again. It's important to do that several times a day, because with the temperature differences between the early morning and midday, or in the afternoon when it's very hot, makes that the material of the reels and everything in there distracts somewhat and gets a little bit bigger. So the clutch setting for the morning must be different than at midday. At midday we must lighten it somewhat, otherwise we block too much and we risk snapping the line and losing the fish. Now all the 3 rods are out. I will do some baiting in order to attract some fish to where the hooks are with the baits in the water. Scoop that allows us to cast lots of pellets quite accurately to where the baits are lying on the bottom of the water. One of our rigs is at about 25-30 meters. In this place I will feed it with the catapult. Now we can wait for the first take. It didn't take long for the first take. Fish is running well off. I think it's a Mekong Catfish. In the beginning you can never be sure. Looks big again, or it feels big. Mekong catfish have a hard life in the wild. They got overfished in the Mekong so much that you have no chances to catch a fish there with hook and line and rod. Next thing is that these Mekong catfish feed on very small plants. And these plants in the wild are too small to be put on a hook as hook bait. The good thing is here in this type of lake, where the fish get fed, they get used to taking other baits also than very small plants. They also take some pellets there, and with the pellets we can fish as hook bait. Mekong catfish are strange fish. Mekong is a huge river, and they need to have their eggs, once they spawn, to be drifting for 1,000 to 2,000 kilometers downstream the Mekong. So the fish swim upstream and the eggs drift downstream with the current after the spawning. And usually the young fish hatch in the delta of the Mekong in Cambodia. This is where they live as young animals. Once they're mature, so once they can spawn on their own, they move upstream the river for 2,000, 2,500 kilometers to start everything again. I think we're fortunate with this fish. It looks a good-sized fish, or it feels a good-sized fish, but it's not running off too far. So in this case, I don't have to jump in the water and follow it swimming with the rod in hand, which is always some mess. The good thing, it cools you a little bit down in the heat here and you sweat less. There it comes.
This is an Amazon redtail. I think one of the most beautiful fish in the lake. I got already one of 85 pounds and 35 pounds. I reckon this 45, 50 pounds. It's a beautiful looking fish if you see the colors of the tail. And it's like a snake, you know. They change the skin every once in a while, and when they are changing the skin you cannot catch them. It's very strange. But as soon as they change the skin, they start feeding again. It's a beautiful looking fish. I'll show you the head of the fish and the long beard what they've got to feel everything in the water. It's beautiful. If you hear this, it's unbelievable. It's like a steel, eh?
Yeah, like a tortoiseshell.
Like a tortoiseshell. It's really hard and they're very protective with that. Some stuff on the places where he was hooked. Also the fins. Okay, now slowly I will wait until he starts breathing again. I move always my fish forwards and backwards until the oxygen goes through. And when he gives me the kick with the tail, I know the fish is alright. And the color of the tail is incredible. Okay, my friend. Let's see what you do. Here's going. Yes. 16 fish in total now. Unbelievable. What a week. Thanks very much, Lee.
No worries, mate.
I've got more understanding for people who travel all around the world like I do, but then for different species. Because the fight is different, you have to learn much more. And I think also when you go to this kind of lakes, you learn more for your Europe fishing. You try different things and yeah, some things are good, some things are bad. But for 100% sure I'm coming back to this lake and see how it goes here, because I never fished in such a paradise and such a surroundings. If you see, everything is green around me, and especially in December when in Europe it's getting cold, it's fantastic to be abroad.
We're at the Krabi Marine Research Center, where they take care about rare marine species. The problem here is that the sea off Phuket has been somewhat overfished in the past decades, and these guys here are trying to do the best they can to save what can be saved. And what we live now is the feeding of the groupers, the skates, the raised, the shark, and we'll see what will happen. This is a big stingray. This ray knows exactly that this is about the time where it will get food, and the ray is waiting for its food. Still hungry, the ray. Now I'll feed it again. Try to get my hand below it. Here. It's inside. Now I find the mouth. Ah, come on. Must be careful not to get bitten because they have teeth. Missed it. Below me is a big quantity of huge groupers. These fish usually hide along reefs and caves there, and they are very sedentary fish, and the monsters here grow up to 200 kilos. It's a pity because worldwide these fishing are becoming more and more rare. They're being often poached, harpooned, spearfished for. They're good to eat, and this is a big problem for them. But now we not eat them, we feed them. This was no grouper. Now we're at the pond with the shark. Many species of shark, but also cobia and moray swim around here, and they're waiting for their food to come. The problem for all these marine turtles is they end up in nets, and a lot of them eat plastic bags that drift in the sea. They confuse them with food. Many of these turtles eat jellyfish, and a plastic bag floating resembles a lot. But they're beautiful animals.
The lake here is 9 acres. We're 8 metres at one end, 7 metres at the opposite end, and we go around to 4 metres in a bay around the corner to give the fish a big variation of depths. There's about 3,000 fish here. Average size is say 50 pound. So without a calculator, how many tons is that? But it's heavily stocked, very heavily stocked. They're worked out into levels of fish. You know, you have bottom feeders, you have mid-water fish, you have upper water fish. Where we got the depth of water, you know, we can do different depth bands of fish. If we were single species lake, we would have to reduce that number by probably 70%. I don't like the word expert because I've learned a lot about Arapaima. I've still got an awful lot to learn. The wild Arapaima fascinate me. I don't know much about them, you know. I know Arapaima in captivity. It was just a case, I mean, I've done autopsies on fish that have died to see why they died. You know, in the early days, if you lifted an Arapaima, you bent their back. You do this in a landing net or handling. If you bend their back upwards or downwards, they've got a huge blood vessel. This is why they breathe air, it filters their blood. We were noticing fish that were dead when we did an autopsy on them, their bodies full of blood. These are fish that have been lifted, you broke a blood vessel and they bled to death.
There are many techniques that would work. The problem that Stuart has is if he allows all techniques possible, his lake will soon not be working anymore because the fish will be dead. This means, and Stuart must be very careful what techniques he allows, because if fish swallow the hooks, he will lose these fish. So this is why almost only one rig is allowed here. This is a bolt rig, like from what is known from the carp fishermen, where the fish hooks himself only in the front part of the mouth, and he can't swallow because the hook length is very short. With circle hooks, Stuart authorizes a longer hook length. Then you can fish with a hook length of 0.5 meter to 1 meter, because these hooks only take grip in the corner of the mouth. So also there the fish are not being harmed. So the fishing techniques are very restricted. What is also possible is to do some fly fishing, which is magic for the Arapaimas, and some fly fishing and spin fishing in a smaller lake that he has got aside this big lake with several species up to 20 pounds, but there's species mongering like Goliath tigerfish or tarpon, which you wouldn't expect here because tarpon doesn't even exist in the Pacific. It comes from the Atlantic and it's a sea fish, but it holds very well in freshwater. So he has also peacock bass there and so many more. It's amazing.
Robbie, I've got a giant stingray on. It's unbelievable. He has to dive in the water to get the stingray going. It's unbelievable. The strongest fish ever.
Sit there, it's okay. Don't put too much pressure. Okay, so he starts moving.
It's impossible, guys. It's impossible.
Okay. The stingray will sit on the bottom of the suction against it. So what we're trying to do, as soon as we get him moving, it's easier for us to land him once he's on the move. And once they sit, it's like a dead weight. It could be the worst snag in the world.
John, I never felt this before, mate.
When seeing the website of Stuart, a very well made website and very complete, I discovered that apparently the fly fishing for Arapaima is working good here. And this attracted me personally to this lake. As I told before, I have been to Thailand 12 years ago several times and discovered these fisheries, but not with the fly rod. And I really wanted to give these fish a try with the fly rod, and I did it, and it worked out. I had now, I think, about 6 or 7 Arapaimas, the biggest ones 250 and 290 pounds. Huge fish, but the great thing about these fish is they take surface lures. These Arapaimas are farmed fish. They got used to be fed with pellets and dead fish, so they're not really hunting. But in the fish farms where they are, it's full of frogs. And these frogs often jump in the water, and the Arapaima took them as prey and have been feeding also on these frogs. So even though they're not so much hunting small fish, they like to hunt frogs. And whenever you present a surface lure, you have a very good chance. And the takes are absolutely spectacular. First of all, as I said, the take is magnificent. It splashes, water explodes, and the lure gets sucked in. It inhales the lure more or less with a lot of water. And well, the chances to strike the fish, I would say, you need 4 or 5 takes to have one fish hanging on the hook, but the one that is hanging on the hook will give you a big fight. It's running off, swimming through all the water hyacinths that are here in the water, and occasionally even jumping. And this makes it fabulous because it's, at my knowledge, the biggest freshwater fish that you can catch with a fly rod, and so the fight is a real big one. There is no particular strategy, it's just you play them like you play big fish, whether it is a big trout on light tackle or this fish on the very heavy tackle we use, it's always the same. As we use barbless hooks, it's very important never to give slack line to the fish. Always keep the fish under pressure. And the runs of these fish may do, well, they make 50, 60 meters in one row, maybe 70, 80 occasionally. And there, of course, it would be stupid to block your reel, otherwise the line will snap immediately. You have no chance stopping these fish. So you make their run a little bit difficult by putting tension on the fish, but you'd still let line go. This is very important, otherwise your line would break or even the rod would break. We've been using two types of lures. Streamers that work under the surface and surface lures, poppers on the surface. With the streamers it's important not to move too much the lure, to work it very, very slowly. And with the poppers it's important to make some noise, like a frog jumping in the water. What doesn't make too much sense is fishing the water blind. This means you just stand somewhere and you cast and cast and cast. Of course, this can produce an occasional fish. But the best strategy is to observe the water, to see where the Arapaimas are rolling and swimming, and to see them swimming just below the water surface and to present your lure right in front of the head. Best is 20 centimeters, not more. And the funny thing is, these fish don't take immediately. You can have an immediate take, but often I had to cast 10 times on the head of certain fish that I spotted before I had the take. With pike it would be different. With pike, the first 1 or 2 casts are the best ones. Later, the pike might stand there, but he will not be taking, and 10 casts later he will run off. With the Arapaimas it's not the same. So the fish swim and swirl, roll around on the surface. You present the bait close to the head of the fish. The ones that will continue swimming, these you will not get. But the ones that stop swimming then and remain in the same position, there you have very good chances. And there you must cast your fly again, so close as possible in front of the mouth as you can. And if you do that 1 time, 5 times, 10 times, you eventually have good chances for a take. These fish are very powerful fish. They jump, they have a lot of power, the fight is long lasting. But still they are very sensible fish. If you don't take care well about these Arapaimas, they will die. If you put them in a landing net and they are a little bit bent, blood vessels inside the body break and the fish will die shortly after you put him back. So this is the reason why the guys of Stuart here, the guides, are using these big bluish cases to land the fish. These cases are rectangular, so the fish is not being bent and he remains in long position in the water, and this is one of the reasons why these fish survive being caught and released here, whereas in other fisheries of this type in Thailand, the big Arapaima usually die after having been caught. So Stuart and his guys know very well how to treat these fish, and it's difficult also to make some decent pictures because the fish has to be put back or released as soon as possible, and if possible not even being taken out of the water, not even lifted. This is why we just roll them on their side, and after 1 or 2 photos we let them go. like an old man. After several fish of that size in one day, under this heat and with this humidity, you get tired. Bringing back an island full of weed and water plants. Water hyacinths, they are. Fortunately, they have no roots. They're floating. Fish must have been taken 400, 500, 600 meters of line in total. Lasts now over 1 hour. Hope it will come to an end soon, before it gets completely dark.
Yeah, we've got strict rules here, but they're sensible rules. You know, sort of, it's all about fish care and the environment. As long as you take care of the fish and you respect the environment, you don't have a problem with the rules. Some of the rules might seem strange to a guy who fishes in Europe for carp and catfish. These fish are totally different. You know, these are Arapaimas and fish that we've learned how to handle, and the rules are there to protect the fish. I don't suffer fools gladly. I've got a zero tolerance on people abusing my rules.
It started off with one of 160 pounds, which already gave a really good fight. And I caught another one of 110 pounds, and then one of 40 pounds, which even was a very strong fish. But then 2 days ago I caught one of over 200 pounds, and it was unbelievable, the fight. So strong. First time in my life I couldn't lift a fish out of the water. And I trained for 30 years with weights, but the weight of the fish is different. You don't want to hurt it, of course, and you want to try to get it safe out of the water. But I'm glad with some help from you guys I could lift it.
Just landed my fish. Now we're waiting for the fish of Ardy, and I'm looking forward to see a much bigger one than mine, because this fight is lasting much longer than mine has been lasting.
Yeah, and I got him. Good fish. Yes. Oh, a very big fish.
This fish is bigger than mine.
Yes. I'm so glad.
Okay.
Give it a kick, that's what I want. Mine is going.
harbour and going out on the sea. The coastline here is very, very, very scenic. Everywhere islands made of the typical limestone of this area, reminding a little bit the Halong Bay in China. It just looks magic. I had the opportunity to travel a lot. I've seen many places on the seas of this world, but here it's one of the most beautiful places I've ever been to. It's so sad. We've seen it when we were in the Marine Research Center, that the sea here looks beautiful, but underwater it's not really healthy. It is really overfished, and this is quite sad.
Enormous Mekong Catfish, 40-50 kg Siamese Carp, stingrays and the world's biggest Arapaimas. In the lake besides me, there is a one-of-a-kind population of the world's biggest freshwater fish. We have showed you that it's worth fishing for them, and you could learn some really important things about the more and more empty oceans around us. In short, we have showed you a little piece of Thailand. If you like the adventure, join us next time.